Bismillah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah, wa ba'd. So talk about shifts in perception and kind of getting ourselves out of that mental state. And this is a theme that we'll see throughout dealing with rage and dealing with anger. Here, he actually closes with saying that if an individual has and develops this forgiving nature and how he deals with others and how he speaks to others, then it is out of that hope that Allah will one day forgive him. And this is important. Whenever we deal with each other, we have to be forgiving, giving people the benefit of the doubt. And like we had said, especially giving families the benefit of the doubt. There are a lot of there's a difference between, so we do this many times, even with our children, how there's a difference between teaching our children and punishing our children. We should take opportunities to what? We should take opportunities to teach. We shouldn't take opportunities to punish. All right, it's usually not helpful. It develops a poor psyche, with our children, with our wives. That's not how we want to do them. This is not the characteristics of a murabbi. So someone who wants to raise his family, someone who wants to deal with his family, somebody who wants to deal with his children, we have to look at their tarbiyah. And part of their tarbiyah is using opportunities to give lessons. One of those ways we want to give lessons, we don't want to be sarcastic, we don't want to be ironic. Why? So when we're sarcastic with our children, why is that a problem? Right, they take it literally. They don't understand the nuance of sarcasm. So if my child breaks something, if I say to him, "Why did you break that?" Is that a teaching opportunity?
No, it's not intentional.
Okay, or even if it is that a teaching opportunity? Right, it's going to be a teaching opportunity. So what is a way that I can approach it? I will get angry, right? And there's nothing wrong with getting angry, but what can I do about it? What are some steps I can? I don't know. I guess not everybody has children. Oh. Huh? Sure. So practically, you're right. My son, he breaks a vase. What do I do? I'm sorry? Okay. I can definitely talk to him. Why did you do that? In the shock of the moment, do you think he's going to give me a good answer?
Probably
No. He's going to be like, "Oh, he did it," right? So what are some steps I can take? What else can I do? All right, that's definitely an opportunity. I can engage with them. What else can I do? I'm sorry? No, you guys said, you spoke at the same time. I didn't understand. Yeah. Slap him? Okay. That also definitely an option. Yes. I'm sorry, kick him out of the house, right? These are very good learning opportunities. Okay, I can express disappointment. Like what? Like by kicking him out of the house. Sure. So here. Okay. So I can tell him, right? I can tell him. I said, what you did was what? What you did was wrong. And by doing that, what have I done? I've identified to him and I've taught him that what? This is a problem. Then what else can I do? Give him the responsibility to clean it up. And that's really, really important, right? This is a teaching opportunity. By saying what you did was wrong, now that it's done, you have to what? Clean it up. And because there are sharp edges, what else can I do? Hope that it gets cut, right? No, no, I can teach him to what? To stay away from the edges, right? Hey, listen, the pieces are sharp. Use a broom and make sure that you're doing this. Don't pick it up with your hand, because if you pick it up with your hand, there's a chance that you will get cut. Again, these are teaching opportunities, right? They're not opportunities to punish, because punishments they can come across as, when we're angry, how does the punishment come across? Right? It can be harsh. It can be very vindictive, right? So, and we this is what we want to do. And this is why Ghazali is giving us. So it might not be so it is a place for punishment, but at that moment, is it the time? Huh? No. Right? It can depend depending on your frame of mind. Right? So when I'm angry, what happens is that even when we are children and our parents punish us for those things that we did, were we expecting the punishment? Or did we think we're going to get away with it? You weren't expecting the punishment?
I was not going to get away with it.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, so we knew the punishment's coming. What happens, why do we start hiding when we do something wrong? not to avoid the punishment. Punishments we're okay with.
To avoid the overreaction.
Right? So the problem isn't the punishment, the problem is the overreaction of the punishment. So like if your son breaks a vase, you'd be like, no internet for a month. Is that an appropriate reaction to what he did? No. So, and the reason I say not the time, because so you can get into the state of mind. You can tell him then, like, listen, what you did was wrong, and you were going to be punished for this. But right now, what? Right now, you need to clean this up. And by the time he finishes cleaning up, it gives clarity of mind to actually help put an appropriate punishment in place. It's like, okay, now you're going to do X, Y, Z chore for the next week, so that you can earn the cost that it was for that vase, right? And the reason now, when something happens again, they're not going to be shy to what? They're going to be hesitant, but they're not going to be shy to what? To come and admit and tell you. Hey, it's like, Dad, I think I broke the vase again, right? And the thing is, why? Because he knows that you're not going to punish him with what? Right? It's not going to be an overreaction. And this is the reason that many of us lose trust with our parents, because they overreact. The problem isn't the reaction. As children, we expect it. We know, like, we sit there like, oh crap. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's something as bad is about to happen. I don't know what it is, but if I feel that the punishment is appropriate, there's less likelihood of me trying to hide it again in the future. And this is what we don't want with our children. We don't want them hiding things from us. Because the moment they hide things from us, the trust is broken. And we never want to break trust. And trust is fragile. Like we've talked about this before. Like even trust in any relationship, it's very fragile. It's very, very fragile. It doesn't take much to tip that glass. And the moment we tip that glass, if the trust is lost, usually the relationship is broken. So we have to do the best we can to maintain that trust. If we're in a position where we have to teach others, then we have to use them as teaching opportunities, not opportunities to punish. Because we're punishing usually because we're vindictive, and it's usually because of our egos. It's not because we're looking to put mercy and forgiveness into that relationship or into that situation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us forgiving. Ameen. So he said this is an important part of Iman. Like this belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving. And if I want His forgiveness, I need to be forgiving. This is how important he makes it. This point is, Ghazali, he's fully emphasizing, saying that this should be part of your Iman. This should be part of your belief, that if you are forgiving, Allah will be forgiving with you. This is how important he feels it is. Because if you have this belief, it'll help avoid that vindictiveness. It'll help avoid that harshness. It'll help avoid that ego. Putting himself in front of Allah's orders. How can I ever say that what I want is more important than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants? And for this individual, why am I taking my revenge out on this person? Why am I exacting my anger? Is it fair? Does it make sense? And if I am, is what I'm doing more important than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for this person? Allah will take care of this. Allah will take care of the situation. Why do I need to step in? Why do I feel the need to put myself in front? I can get the authorities involved if it's something that involves my right, but why am I taking personal steps? Because why am I stepping into this vigilantism? This is something that, again, it's all about perspective. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger is surely greater than mine. Meaning that if this person hurt me, then Allah is going to be angrier at this person than I can ever be. You know why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my Lord. And He doesn't like that any of His slaves are taken advantage of. Actions. So here, Ghazali actually sets forward a series of actions that should be done. So the moment I get angry, what do you think he says is step one? What is the first level of reaction that I can do? I mean, awareness is for sure important. But after the awareness, what else? Something really simple. That's part of it. But a little bit before that. Making dua. Right, so he mentions that. He mentions dealing with stages. He says the first thing is doing ta'widh. And he's saying, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Because ultimately anger is stemming and coming from the shaitan. And because he's an unseen enemy, I have to use the unseen to protect myself. Then what do you think happens after this? What's the next step? I'm still angry. I'm doing isti'adha. Breathe. Change position. So what are some of the things that we come in the hadith about changing position? So if I'm standing, sit down. If I'm sitting down, lie down. And he talks about this shift or this change in position is actually something that helps. Making wudu or ghusl. He says that this is, again, something that is meant to cool down anger. What else? What after this? If this doesn't work either?
Since you did.
He said, make wudu al-ghusl again, right? No, this is actually a mistake. There's only 3 that he mentions here. But he's saying this is the last step, right? Making wudu or making ghusl, it's important. All of these things, mindset, physical position, using water, these are all different tools that he is giving us, and these all come from the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how to better ourselves and how to protect ourselves. Some narratives that he mentions say, I seek refuge with Allah from the shaitan, the accursed, yani a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. This hadith, Bukhari and Muslim. The hadith about going from standing, sitting to laying down. So he says here that the reason for this is because when an individual lowers themselves, they get closer to the earth. And the earth is a reminder of where we came from. And it's an idea to bring that humility. Also, he said this slows movement, right? So when you're standing, he's saying that that's where the most movement happens. And then sitting, there can still be movement, but it's less. And the least amount of movement happens when we're laying down. And he's saying as you bring these levels of movements down, the thing that causes the anger is heat. And where does heat come from? He says heat comes from movement. And the less you move, the less heat is actually generated, which is supposed to help calm and bring the anger down. Here is a hadith in Tirmidhi that he shares, is that, behold, anger is an ember in the heart of the son of Adam, as you see it in the redness of his eyes and the bulge of his jugular veins, right? So when somebody's really angry, you can really see it. So whoever senses something from that, let him cling to the ground. And his understanding is actually very interesting. He says, this is almost as if the Prophet ﷺ is telling us to fall into sajda. And by falling into sajda, you're taking the most noble parts of your body and you're putting them on the lowest parts of the earth to remind us of where our state is and what our status is and who we actually are as individuals. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ also said, when one of you becomes angry while standing, he should sit down. If the anger leaves him, well and good. Otherwise, he should lie down. And again, taking these stages of physical change. Making wudu, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, anger comes from the devil. The devil was created from fire, and fire is extinguished only with water. So one of you becomes angry, he should perform wudu. Being silent, if you anger, then stay quietly. This hadith is in Musnad Ahmad. Again, Umar angered one day and asked for water and blew it out his nose, saying, anger is from the shaitan, and this removes anger. Another one, perspective. Urwa ibn Muhammad, he said that when I was appointed governor of Yemen, my father said to me, when you anger, look to the skies above you and the earth below you, and remember how great their creator is. Also, at Al-Rabada, I met Abu Dharr, who was wearing a cloak, and his slave too was wearing a similar one. I asked about the reason for it. He replied, I abused a person by calling his mother with bad names. And the Prophet ﷺ said to me, Abu Dharr, did you abuse him by calling his mother with bad names? You still have some characteristics of ignorance. And this is, subhanAllah, this is really interesting. You know there's no word for like racism in Arabic? You know what the equivalent is? Jahl. Ignorance. That's it. Like, so all of these things, like this racism and misogyny, all prejudice, all of these things would be bundled up into this term, jahl, ignorance. This is how it's described. That any of those things, this tribalism that you have, or this racism that you have, this is actually and essentially jahl. It's actually ignorance. Your slaves are your brothers, and Allah has put them under your command. So whoever has a brother under his command should feed him of what he eats and dress him of what he wears. Do not ask your slaves to do things beyond their capacity, and if you do so, then help them. Again, the status of even slaves. Slaves, these individuals are property, right? They're owned by a person, and even they have rights. Again, with the perspective of Mu'tamar ibn Sulaiman, he said to one of the men of the past, every time his anger would intensify, he would share 3 parchments, which he had written. And he gave each parchment to a man, and he said to the first, when I get angry, give me this parchment. And he said to the second, whenever my anger cools, give me your parchment. And for the third one, he said, when my anger passes completely, give me this parchment. So one day he angered, and the first man gave him the parchment. It said, what is wrong with you that you anger? You are no God, you are a mere human, where you will just consume yourself. Meaning your anger will just consume you. And when his anger cooled, the second gave him his parchment, which said, have mercy on those in this world so that the one in the sky can have mercy on you. And the final man then gave him his parchment, which said, take people's account for Allah's rights, for He does not correct them except with them. Meaning that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent a had, if He has sent a penalty, then that penalty is to be carried out. Why? Because this individual took Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not forgive Allah's punishments. Just because you've cooled down and your anger is gone, it doesn't mean that you should forgive the punishments that is due on this individual. Also, Muhaddi, he angered one day at another, so Shabib said to him, you should not anger more than for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. So then he said, let him go. And if you're going to get angry, then only anger for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. If not, then leave him. And that's the end of the chapter. The next chapter, inshallah, we'll talk about the virtue of suppressing anger, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. But I will see all of you next week. Inshallah, we'll be starting the hadith from next week. Also, for those of you who are interested in a new fiqh class, we'll be starting a Shafi'i fiqh class with Akhuna al-Fadil, Ustad, Uthman Jilo. That'll be on Mondays at 7:30? At 7, okay. Monday at 7, inshallah, it'll be here, bi'idhnillah. So the class is open to both brothers and sisters. I'll let your friends know. I will try, did we share the flyer in the group or no? No? Okay. I'll try to get a flyer shared in the group, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. But I look forward to seeing all of you on Monday, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Wallahu a'lam. Wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqin. Nabina Muhammad wa alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Shafi'i. We live in a post-madhab world. Yes.
The name of the class tells it all.
Yes.